I, you've been at 12 crash retrievals, but I was just curious if you could describe the insides of some of these vehicles to us. I know that Bob Lazar, has been supposedly, involved in back engineering and some of that stuff, but Stanton Friedman doesn't lend a lot of credibility to Bob Lazar. And I wanted to know if you've ever met Bob Lazar.
I met Bob Lazar. I'm very familiar with Stanton Friedman.
I'd like to know what your feelings are about how credible you think Bob Lazar is. And
a long time ago now, I don't buy into everything he says, and there's a reason for that. And the same thing, what's he saying, that's fake. But I learned a long time ago, never ever call no one a liar. Never ever go ahead. Used to bother me when people would call me a liar, or that I was, a con artist. I was this, I was that. Used to bother me. It don't bother me no more. The whole situation is be true to thyself. And if you're true to yourself, then that's what's important.
Could you describe the interior of some of these?
Are you going to be here tomorrow?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, ask me tomorrow.
Okay.
I don't have copies of what we're talking about, but I'll let you folks that are here tomorrow see it.
One question about interfacing. Were there others like you that had the same kind of job you did?
When I got out of the military, I knew of 7 other people who were there that did this.
Have any of them come out other than you that you know of?
I don't know of any that have come out. I've heard stories.
Interesting. I'm assuming there's still
one guy even approached me and told me about the guy getting killed in one car accident. And he said, he said to me, was I worry about that? Well, I got to keep on track of doing what I'm doing. I can't go ahead and let fear factor go ahead and tell me to stop. When they were doing everything, they sent me for a psychological evaluation. When I started to come out and talk, that backfired. They then went ahead and started proceedings to try to get me court-martialed. That backfired over big time. One of the people doing this to me demanded to see, they actually made me do intensified PT training, hoping that I would drop dead, because the word got back I had a heart condition. And when the lieutenant colonel that was really behind most of this wanted to see my military records, and I had no objections. He has a right to see my medical records. He has a right to see my medical records, but he has to go through a medical officer to do that. He can't just go ahead and pull them, and he has to have justification. He had me, well, the Inspector General at the Department of Army, Inspector General, I called and I asked, oh yeah, he's got that right. And I said, you know what? I know that I'm just a sergeant, and you're a full bird colonel, and you're working there at the Pentagon. But let me tell you a little secret. A man is a man is a man. I don't care what rank he is. And sir, you put your pants on the same way I do, one leg at a time. Then fine. He's going to get to see my medical records. I'm going to take him to him. And I'm going to tell him, we got a copy machine here. If you want copies of them, you make them right now. But if you call again, then I'm going to have to bring him to the hospital, because what could be in there? And he started to stay on this phone. Decided to stay on this phone. And I was calling him home. So I hung up and I go on over, take my medical records with me, go on in. I go on in Scalari's office. I shut the door and lock it behind me. I said, sir, you want to see my records? I slapped them down right in front of me. Oh, I'm sorry. Sergeant Stone, we're just worried about your health. Sure you are. That's why you have me doing all this other stuff. You go through them, but you know what? You can have me run 24 hours a day, but there's no way on God's green earth I'm going to drop dead. So you do your damnedest, okay? If these records are going to help you, you go for it. But I will fight you to hell and back. And I think I'll come out, and I know it. You're an officer, you're a great officer, and enlisted people never win over officers, let alone trophy officers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, by the end of the day, when everything was said and done, I went ahead got one of the highest awards for peacetime service, which is called the Meritorious Service Medal. 3 officers that was involved in trying to get me court-martialed were relieved of duty. 2 of which were forced to retire, but Lieutenant Colonel was where he was, because he even got another, he was messing with a whole lot of people, and I think that's why we locked horns. He went ahead and got 1 major thrown out of the service, and when he was doing that, he had officers call, and he got this major to stand up and said, okay, you see this man, you know what I'm doing to him. You don't do exactly what I tell you, I'll do the same thing to you. Well, he did to another major. Gave him an adverse officer's evaluation report. Then the officer said, okay, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to fight this. Because you can't fight it. I have to give you permission, or the executive officer has to give you permission. Well, we didn't have an executive officer at the time. As the NCOIC administration, that would be me. So this major came and he says, Tony, will you go ahead and sign off on this? I said, well, you know, Colonel Scalari will not let me do that. He says, oh, if you don't do it, then, you know, my career is over. There's nothing I can do. And I said, well, sir, you know, I can't do it. I'm not the executive officer. He says, as the admin here at the ROTC, you're the head person. There's no officer over it. You're it. So I went in and checked, and I was it. So I went in and I signed. He said, you know, Scalari's going to come after you. I said, you know what? He's already coming after me. So let him do the best he can.
Is this major still alive?
The major is still alive.
Are you allowed to say his name, or you better rather not?
Right off the hand, I can't recall his name.
Okay.
Scalari's a real person. Scalari is a person that tried to get me done in.
But he's gone.
Huh?
Is he dead now?
Oh, no.
Wow.
No?
But they're retired, obviously, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah. And the whole situation is,
They finally took a chill pill, hopefully.
the Army hated me because, you know, I already knew of Freedom of Information Act, Privacy Act. And the Army taught me well on how to use those. And I mean, I owe the Army everything. The Army was me absolutely nothing, you know? But I owe them everything because it was because of what they were doing to me. And before, when I had people who would write and I'd have to respond to Freedom of Information Act requests, I learned the tricks of the trade. For example, when people would come and ask about higher classifications and top secret. Well, you know, the common, and this is what you're taught to respond. There are only 3 classifications currently existing for any classification. That's confidential, secret, and top secret. And that's the response to this day you'll get. I don't have to tell you anything about what we call the Sensitive Department and Information Program, are the levels that go into some of those programs. For example, within Project Center Lane. None of you heard of Project Center Lane, have you?
No.
Project Center Lane was the U.S. Army's project that was set up initially by the U.S. Army, later got controlled, was taken over by the DIA, remote viewing. And within Project Center Lane, you had Project Center Lane, of course, that was set up under the SCI program, Sensitive Department of Information Program. And within each of the CIS levels that they had actually levels, numbered levels. For example, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Now, eventually the public would be able to learn, if they knew what they were looking for, of level 4. From level 5 to level 12, to this day they don't acknowledge that. And a lot of people early on started coming out and they could have gotten themselves in serious trouble. Because to mention the fact that there were levels of information, this could really hurt people. And it was highly classified. That type of information was information that you would get a fair trial, but it would be a closed court-martial. because you'd be dealing with information that officially wasn't supposed to exist. I think we miss it almost all the time.
Yeah.
But please, if you haven't gotten up here, this right here is actually where General Brown went ahead and stated, we didn't call them UFOs at that time, but that's by report in 73. But we called them unidentified, or we called them enemy helicopters.
That's very interesting.
So they are there.
So, are we having a party at his house or what? I mean, this man is
I'm gonna stick
something,
around
isn't he?
maybe for after the weekend.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Do you live in the area?
No, I'm from Santa Cruz, California.
That's where I
Yeah.
went to high school.
Is that, I
I
tell you,
lived-
this
I lived
happens
in
every
Petaluma.
time I do this.
What a trip.
It's so trippy.
love it.
It's so synchronistic.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What's your name?
Eric.
Eric Sharon. Shara, I'm calling myself these
Right
days.
on, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd love to. I mean,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have just had the great privilege.
Are you familiar with David Adair?
I think vaguely, but not
You should do some
overtly.
looking into David Adair because I would love to have him and David Adair.
Is he a tall, thin
They're
man?
almost identical, and their stories are very similar. but
Okay, I'll
different.
look it up. I'll look him up.
Got all your other ones, son.
Oh, I have these.
Oh, you have the other?
Don't you remember getting me?
Oh, sorry.